Hello, welcome to another very exciting creature tutorial. This tutorial is going to cover the new animation curve editor timeline features that was recently added to the creature animation tool. So without further ado, let me start. So the new features are actually really exciting because they allow you to animate many things. For example, like this bouncing rock here. Let me show you. You can easily animate a bouncing rock using keyframe animation, but with obviously a twist with creature, because it can easily generate all the bouncing motion and actually put those as keyframes into your FK motor. I'll show you in a moment. So there's a whole bunch of easing functions that are now available that you can use it to generate bouncing motion like this. Now before we move on to this example, I'm going to go to another example to show you the new features of the animation curve timeline editor. So I have an example timeline here, just a character wagging its tail. Not very exciting, but the point is I actually have an animation curve. I've converted this rotate cycle motor to a bunch of animation, keyframe FK motor curves, right? So right now what you can do with the new update is you can actually just drag a bounding box like so, and this will then select the group of knots. Now let me show you what the operations are. You can actually Alt plus drag to shift, so you can actually shift your timing, right? Pretty cool. Okay, just hold on the Alt key and drag, and you can change your timing. That's the first thing you can do. Now I can also do other stuff. I can obviously retime this animation. So you notice there's two sort of yellowish bars on the left and the right. If I hold them down and I just drag it, you can see I'm stretching this, and there you go. I've retimed this animation. So you can shorten, quicken or lengthen the animation however you want. So this gives you all the functionality you had in the knots view, but now you have it in the animation curve view as well. Okay, but that's not the most exciting bit about this. You can do other stuff as well. Now let me see what you can do. So let's highlight these bunch of knots as well. Now notice there's two handles, top and bottom, and then on the top left corner and the lower right corner. Let's go through what these handles actually mean. Now these two handles in the center allow you to actually amplify. They see that? Amplify or sort of shrink, fade, I would say, fade the signal, the animation knots, right? So you can use it to obviously amplify the entire selection of animated knots, to sort of make your animation maybe more pronounced or more faded. But you can also actually fade it at the ends. Look at that. Yeah? Or you can amplify at the ends. So you can do signal fading very easily. And likewise, I can also fade it from here. Yeah? So with these controls, there's a lot of possibilities, a lot of flexibility when you're doing keyframe animation using knots and splines, and I hope you enjoy this feature. I think it's very powerful. So you have most of the features you have from the knots timeline view, shifting the knots, resizing the knots, selecting a group of knots, moving them around. Of course, you can obviously, let's say I can move a group of knots like so. I can shift them too very easily. Of course, you can do that, right? So all the functionality you expect should be in the timeline curve, plus the ability to fade, amplify on both ends, from the start, from the end, or the entire signal. Okay, let's move on to the bouncing rock, because I'm going to cover easing functions. So here is the example of the bouncing rock. I'm going to open up a new clip. So this does not have the rock bouncing. You can see it just sort of veers off to the right. Yeah, veers off to the right. Nothing really exciting. So what do I mean by easing functions? Well, okay. So let's take a look here. Yeah. Let's take a look at the curves I have here. Now, the goal of the bouncing rock is I actually want the positional Y, the pause Y of this FK motor to actually exhibit a bouncing motion. There's a couple ways to do it. Obviously, the first way is to manually key it. You can do whatever you want. That's very good. But obviously, we're in creature, so our options are much better than that. What I can do is I can just select these two knots, right? Group select again. And I will move my mouse over to this graph thing here. It says ease in, ease out, selected knots. I click on it, and now I have this screen which shows me a bunch of functions I can pick, right? So look at what we have here. I have different functions, different easing functions. When I apply it, will actually modify the intermediate knots, or add knots to make it actually exhibit some kind of easing behavior that I want, right? So the most basic is like cubic, which is really boring. You can probably make it yourself. You can just, you know, adjust the tension knots, but it's there for just, you know, convenience. And each of these easing functions has different modes. There's a ease in, ease out, yeah, and ease in and out. So like back actually like overshoots and stuff, so it's pretty cool. And elastic simulates like an elastic like physics easing, and you can obviously do this with bend physics as well, but you know, some people prefer keyframing, so we offer both possibilities now. So Creature is amazing for procedural animation, and now you have the same power and flexibility also for manual keyframe animation. So why don't we do the bounce? Yeah, and let's pick ease out. So I wanted to come down and then start bouncing on the floor. So I'll click apply, and let's see what we get. Look at that. So immediately I get this bouncing behavior, and we can see like the knots have actually been applied to that rock, right? Now don't worry, you can always undo this, but also if you just want to overwrite it, just, you know, select this again, click on easing, and if you say cubic, let's say ease in and out, see what happens. See, immediately changes it to cubic. So you don't actually even have to erase those knots. You just select a bunch of knots, you know, the start and the end, click on the easing function and pick something else you want. Yeah. So let's try elastic. Let's see what we get. It's very that's hilarious. But you get the idea. Yeah. So let's go back to bounce, because that's actually what we want. Ease out. That's the appropriate behavior. Yep, and then we have a bouncing rock. Super simple, done in no time at all. If you go back to default, that's how this rock was done. And I added in like just, you know, a bit more rotation. Just, you know, you can see I rotated a rock, just a simple rotate, just to make it seem more like a bounce. But the real behavior, the real bouncing behavior, was accomplished simply by actually putting in the bounce easing function with ease out, and there you have it. Super simple. Okay, so this concludes this Creature tutorial. I hope you enjoy these new features. I think it's actually very exciting that we now have a full-blown, super powerful curve editor with all the retiming, shifting, amplification, whatever you want to call it, functionality in it, plus the ability to actually have custom easing functions to have very, you know, to allow you to do fancy ease in, ease out timings of your choice. So thanks for watching this tutorial, and happy animating.